In this week's episode, we're going to be getting into the Knob Creek 18. I was very excited to get my hands on this, but it didn't live up to my expectations. And was it better than the Old Granddad 16? Then Kelsey's going to introduce us to a new whiskey release, the Whiskey Tree Wheated Double Oaked Bourbon, blended by one of our favorite master blenders in the game, Nancy Fraley. And then the last segment of today's show is going to be all about these little 2-ounce sample bottles. I have been pouring 2 ounces of every meaningful bottle in my collection for the last 6 years. Do these 2-ounce sample bottles actually work? Stick around and find out. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. Let's get into a review and see if this is a bottle that you should be hunting. We are calling it. In 2025, we fully expect the trend in bourbon and whiskey to be the return of some big age statements. And it's just in time for me. I have been craving some oak lately. And with that, I just couldn't resist picking up this bottle anymore when I found it for at least what I consider to be a deal of a price. Today, we are getting into the Knob Creek 18 year, coming in at 100 proof. And this is the batch that came out in 2024. Excited to see how this one grades out and what are going to be my thoughts compared to a more recent release as well, the Old Granddad 16 year that was also at 100 proof. Curious about this review? Stick around. Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another whiskey review. So today we are getting into the Knob Creek 18. I had been seeing this bottle around Northern Kentucky, first at $200, then at $180. I even once saw it at $160. I kept passing on it though. I try not to spend that much on a single bottle at any given time. But as the months have gone on, I have been craving some good oak, and Kroger, of all places, roped me in for $145. Thus, I couldn't resist anymore, and I had to bring this bottle home with me. For today's review, I am going to be using this bulb glass here because I really want to get into the nose. Give that a little time to open up there as well. Now, this is the first Knob Creek 18 year that I have ever owned. I didn't have the prior batches, but I am certainly a big fan of the Hardin's Creek releases. And while I did like Old Granddad 16 more than others, that price was just still too much at $200. How can Old Granddad 16 be $200 while Knob Creek 18 I got for $145. Much easier pill to swallow. So what we're going to do today is get into the nose, get into the palate, and then get into the final scores and whether we would recommend this one. Cheers, everybody. Let's get into the nose first. So what sticks out to me right away on the nose is that the oak is everything that I wanted it to be, but it's also surprising at the same time. For something that's 18 years old, it never ventures into a furniture polish type of a situation. It stays quite balanced with some sweetness, with some spice, and all of that oak working together. The sweetness is coming in at a whole bunch of different angles, getting some good fruits, cherry, and citrus, but also getting a lot of rich caramel. Essentially, caramel I would equate to the type of caramel you would dip a salted soft pretzel into. With that oak, where it does drift is into a brighter range that really takes it into some tobacco territory. So some good depth on this nose. Very impressed thus far. Let's get to the palate. Cheers, everybody. The mouthfeel, very oily, very impressed there. And the flavors up front are a bit subtle, though very similar to the nose. A nice balance between that omnipresent oak and some sweetness, spice, and those fruits. As we transition to mid-palate, the oak does pick up and becomes more center stage, but still getting a good balance with the citrus, the cherry, and the caramel and skin of a salted soft pretzel does return mid-palate as well. All right, so far so good. Let's get into the finish. Finish stays the course here, so still wonderfully balanced throughout. The oak is not overbearing on the finish whatsoever, still getting those fruits, drifting into the cherry and citrus realm. And then the deeper I get into the finish, more of those thoughts of the tobacco leaves and a nice rich vanilla come into play. So all in all, what surprises me about this pour is simply how balanced it is with the 18 years, but all of these mid to even bright flavors dancing all around that oak. All right, let's get into the final score. So here on the channel, we do have a robust scoring system that can essentially be broken down into a flavor score, an experience score, and a value score. The aggregate of all those scores puts it in a range, typically somewhere between 70 to 90, with anything above an 85 being labeled as a certified gold pour for the channel, essentially something that is scoring high on nearly all of the metrics. And for the Knob Creek 18 year, we are right there. Graded this one out at an 87 out of 100. Quite a good pour, and it does put it above the Old Granddad 16. Overall, I think this is a better pour than the Old Granddad 16, not even taking into account the difference in the price, considering I paid $145 for this versus the $200 of the Old Granddad 16. But just in general, I think what's happening in this glass is a better pour, and I'm very glad that I splurged on it. So thank you to Kroger for having this discounted at a range I was willing to buy it. So if you're still here, hit that like and subscribe. If you have had this pour before, let us know what you think about it in the comments, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Before we move on to the next segment, I want to give a shout out to our friends, Katie and Ethan, over there at the Drifting Drams Coffee Company. Fancy coffee for regular people. Katie and Ethan are going to be giving away a $15 gift card to Drifting Drams Coffee Company. So leave a comment with the hashtag Drifting Drams to enter, and be sure to come back next week and see if you won. And congratulations to last week's winner, Roger Reese. Reach out to me, and I'll get you hooked up with your gift card. And enjoy that coffee. Now it's time to catch up with Kelsey over in the Whiskey Riffs Lounge.
Hello again, whiskey friends. This is Kelsey back in the Whiskey Riff Lounge, bringing you a new whiskey roundup. All right, today we are looking at new wheated bourbon on the market from Louisiana, of all places. This is the Whiskey Tree Wheated Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So this is blended by our own friend, Nancy Fraley, and is a new bourbon on the market that you should be looking out for. Now, this is a wheated bourbon, the secondary grain being wheat versus opposed to rye. And so we're going to be diving into this. Let's get into the nose. Cheers. So on the nose, this comes across very vanilla forward, a little bit of caramel on the nose, and a little bit of spice. Sometimes that wheat can come through as a spice rather than rye. It will kind of mimic some of those things. The other thing that I'm getting is just a little bit of a sweet oak. There's not a lot of oak on this. It is not over prevailing on the oak, but it is very sweet on the nose up front. Now, the proof on this particular bottle is going to be right at 100 proof. So it's a very easy proof point to get into a wheated bourbon if you're new to bourbon, or if you haven't seen this, keep your eyes out for this. They do a lot of different, I think they do 3 different offerings. This is their wheated bourbon offering at 100 proof. Let's get into the palate. Oh yeah, this has gotten really good. On the palate, you get all the sweet vanilla and caramel right up front. I mean, it is just following the nose 100%. It's very easy to drink. It kind of drinks sub 100 to me. Not a lot of else going on besides the vanilla and the caramel and a little bit of oak. Let's go in for a second sip to see how consistent this stays. So on the second sip, you're getting all of that. You get a little bit of that weedy fruit note, just a tinge of it, but mostly it's just vanilla caramel. Super easy to drink, very approachable. Guys, if you're seeing this out, pick it up. This is a very, very good whiskey. Obviously, Nancy has blended this. You know it's going to be good. This is actually MGP distillate, so you're not going to be disappointed no matter what. But you know that Nancy's blending these, that it's going to be a hitter. So let's go back for one more sip and then we'll wrap this up. So final thoughts. This is an easy wheated bourbon. It doesn't come across anything like a Weller or even a Ben Holiday sweet mash. This is a totally different profile. It still kind of has a little bit of that graham crackery note of MGP, but it's not going to have that same type of fruit notes that a typical MGP would have. Now remember, this is a wheated bourbon, 100 proof. The other thing that I would pair with this would be this cigar right here, which is the AJ Fernandez New World Cameroon. This is a very easy, accessible cigar. It's not super bold. It's got lots of really sweet earthiness to it, and I think it pairs really well with the vanilla and the caramels. I think if you guys pair these together, you're going to have a wonderful experience. So make sure you guys check out this bottle. This is the Wheated Straight Bourbon Whiskey from Whiskey Tree out of Louisiana, sourced from MGP, blended by our own Nancy Fraley. So, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. Let me know if you guys pair these things together and what you guys think.
Thanks to this great community, we've had the privilege of picking some amazing barrels over the last year, and we are going to continue that in 2025. Coming up, we will have barrels of Green River, Bardstown, and Old Dominic, with many more on the way. If you'd be interested in getting in on our barrel picks, consider joining our Patreon community to be first in line. We also share barrel pick news with our private Facebook group, link in the description. Come be a whiskey friend and join us on this journey. Whenever there's a question from the community or a topic you're interested in, we love covering it here. Let's see this week's topic. Do these little 2-ounce sample bottles actually preserve whiskey better than the original bottle? Though it wasn't original in my plan, I have tucked away many samples over the years so that I can enjoy various bottles later in life. It just so happens that some of those sample bottles that I poured years ago, I still have those exact same bottles on my shelf right now, which thus enables us to do an experiment, seeing if the sample bottle poured years ago retained the whiskey better than the original bottle. Curious about the results? Stick around. Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining, everybody. We did this experiment a few weeks ago with Stag Junior Batch 11, comparing a sample that I poured in 2019 to the actual bottle still sitting on my shelf, just far lower and filled with less whiskey. In that experiment, the sample bottle killed it. I was actually kind of overwhelmed by how much better the sample bottle was. Though don't get me wrong, the bottle that was on the shelf was still good, but it was noticeably and meaningfully different. The sample bottle essentially packed more punch across the entire experience when it came to the flavors. So that got me thinking, what other bottles can I do this with? And will the sample bottle keep winning out? So today's experiment is going to be about Wild Turkey Revival. So I have had this bottle dating back to the end of 2018 or beginning of 2019, but it has been on my shelf for quite a while. And right here, I have a sample bottle of this exact same bottle that I poured back in 2019, 2018. Now, the reason that I poured whiskey in the sample bottle is because I do like when people come over that they can enjoy whatever they want. And at the time, I didn't have that many impressive bottles. So I was always afraid that someone might just hone in on it. And what if they drank it all? Would I be sad? Well, I'm going to be less sad if I have a little bit left behind. So that was the original motivation. But of course, now it's turned into a science experiment. So what I've done this time, unlike last time, is I've actually randomized the original sample versus the sample bottle. I've got little stickers here that are underneath each of these glasses that at the end will tell me. So we're going to determine if I like my left hand better than my right hand. And then if there is a meaningful difference between the two and which one sticks out and why. So we will see if the sample bottle continues to win in this experiment. So we're going to start out with the glass in my left hand. Cheers, everybody. And while I didn't hit it up on the top, if you aren't familiar, Wild Turkey Revival is a sherry finished special release of Wild Turkey featuring some older varieties. I think the barrels in this batch range from 12 to 15 years. So some really good stuff. And it came in at 101 proof. And right off the top here, I am just getting some lovely, lovely sherry off the nose. It's essentially coming across almost creamy like an ice cream as well. Kind of reminds me of Graeter's raspberry chip ice cream, if you're familiar. Getting some nice, lovely oak too. Really, really excited to dive into the palate, but let's stick to the nose for now. Let's get into the right hand. Cheers, everybody. It's interesting. The right hand is darker leaning, less of that bright creaminess of that ice cream I was referring to, getting more though into more of a straight chocolate, even like a raspberry flavored dark chocolate. So there's a difference already between these. There's also a bit of smokiness on the right hand that I wasn't detecting on the left. All right, let's get into the palate, starting with the left hand. Cheers. Lovely, creamy, getting that nice turkey funk on the end, along with some oak. And the sherry that is coming through very bright. So still sticking to what I said on the nose, where it's coming across more like a raspberry chip ice cream. Now let's get into the right hand. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, this is kind of freaking me out. They don't even taste like the same whiskey. The right hand is much darker, much richer, whole lot more chocolate, and a nice smokiness there too. On the right hand, the oak feels more balanced throughout and is even a little less aggressive on the finish, and still getting those undertones of essentially a raspberry flavored dark chocolate. All right, I'm going to go back and forth one more time just to see if I'm not tricking myself in some way. But I think the right hand is winning this by a mile. Cheers for one more sip of each. I think what's so interesting about it, on the left hand, on that final sip, the quintessential turkey funk is coming through so much on the finish that I wasn't getting on the right hand. All right, let's go into the right hand here. The right hand is darker leaning, better balanced, extremely better oak throughout the experience. And the fruits come through even more vibrant. Man, right hand's winning. Let's see what it is. All right, in my right hand. All right, right hand was the sample. Left hand was the original bottle. Wow. I'll tell you what, this was even further away than the Stag Junior was. And you can see where I am on the bottle of this Wild Turkey Revival. Now, this bottle shape is misleading. You know, if I turn it this way, you can see that there's a lot less liquid in there. But all of that air, unfortunately for me, and a lot of the bottle that I have on my shelf, is causing a deterioration of this whiskey. Still delicious, but nowhere near where it was when it was at this portion of the bottle right here. So again, if you are in the habit of pulling samples for later use from all your bottles, I swear now, after doing this twice, and I can do it a few more times, take it off the top of the bottle. Do not wait to take the last 4 ounces. If you save the last 4 ounces, you're already saving a diminished product, it seems. Curious to know what you think about this science experiment in the comments. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And just remember, while you can always find more whiskeys, you can never have enough whiskey friends. So take care of those around you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, buddy. Shout out to our Patreon family. Couldn't do this without you. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe. And if you're interested in checking out our barrel picks, check out our Patreon and our private Facebook group in the description. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.